Perhaps it's too early to pass judgment on Russia because there is still some benefit from it. And now the Russian Federation is proving my favorite idea. You can familiarize yourself with these ideas in the amazing book, The Origin of Genius and Fascism. Every day, more and more, looking at reality every day more and more, I am convinced of the merits of this book and its relevance. This is my skull. For some reason, the child decided to take my skull for a hackafall. Well, all right, fine. What were we talking about? Yes. We were talking about how Russia truly proves that the return to the pigsty of religious beliefs is not a problem for people. It's a matter of minutes. And to annul and throw away into the trash. About 500 years of scientific development, it takes just a few days. And people with astonishing ease and speed return to a truly primitive consciousness, to gods, to sorcerers' communion, and other long dismissed ridiculous rubbish. And in Russia, we see, yes, look, I have an interesting clash of two types of sorcerers there. There, again, the Orthodox clashed with mystics and esotericists, and the Russian Orthodox Church angrily fumed that on the day of the 40 martyrs of Sebastia, there should not be any magical conferences or gatherings held. Well, the Russian Orthodox Church claims that its magic is the most magical and should be total, and only it should be mandatory for everyone. That is, sorcerers with crosses, they hate sorcerers with pentagrams and want to trample and burn those sorcerers, considering that in general, priests and magic are absolutely equivalent in terms of absurdity, but the churchmen claim that it is precisely their magic and no other magic should exist. In fact, this nonsense should be the only nonsense in the country, and no other nonsense is allowed. Considering that if we talk about some underlying deep folk Russia, then I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with the materials of the Ethnographic Bureau, Prince Tenishev, and there you will learn that until the beginning of the 20th century, between the ordinary Russian person, between the Russian peasant, the Russian townsman, and some Polynesian savage, there was no fundamental difference. Russians, until the beginning of the 20th century, believed that toads, frogs, lizards, snakes, a great multitude of insects, living horsehair, and women's hairs, as they expressed it, not only crawl into the body, but also breed inside. And these ailments were completely common rural afflictions. Snakes preferred to live in the stomach, frogs in the head. And the Kazan professor of medicine was such a Vysotsky, Nikita Fedorovich. In the Nizhny Novgorod region, while examining the peasantry, he found out of 100 people, 18 in whose heads, due to smoking tobacco, a toad settled in the head. And the toad would move around in the head, scratching it from the inside. And it was believed that one had to open the skull, show the toad a mirror, and then it would leave the head. Well, it's quite amusing, by the way, that people were outraged by the fact that a gathering, the immune system of mystics and psychics is held on the days of the so-called Sebastian martyrs. By the way, it's interesting. Why didn't the names of the Sebastian martyrs become popular in Russia? Because they have very beautiful and interesting names. Sekiron, Sisinius, Yavnoik. These martyrs are actually very interesting. Guys, this big church holiday, this grand, magnificent date is indeed associated with 40 Cappadocians who served in the Roman legions. But since they embraced Christianity and were monstrously filthy to be similar to Christians or hermits, Christian anchorites, they were persuaded to wash. They were left at night somewhere, found in Cappadocia, found ice, left them on the ice, and built a bathhouse on the shore, in the hope that the frozen Cappadocians would eventually go into the bathhouse and wash. But they decided to warm up using traditional methods. They pushed each other, jumped, broke through the ice, and in general, let's say they drowned,